stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, I am reviewing the Guardian cards from A Phantom of Truth, the third Mythos pack in the Path to Carcosa cycle. I've split up the review of this Mythos pack into 5 parts, so make sure you check out the reviews for the other cards in the other classes when you've got the time. There are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. So with that in mind, let's see what the Phantom of Truth has in store for Arkham Horror's Guardians. The first Guardian card in the pack has one of the probably one of the greatest names in the history of card games. This is I'll See You in Hell. It's a free event with 2 combat skill icons and the spirit trait. It has the game text, each non-elite enemy engaged with you is defeated, you are defeated, and suffer 1 physical trauma. This action does not provoke an attacks of opportunity. Now, during my review of the player cards in the Unspeakable Oath Mythos pack, I discussed my theory about how cards like Trench Knife and Storm of Spirits were paving the way for designers to introduce a swarm mechanic to the game, and I'll See You in Hell is another card that gives players a way to deal with swarms of enemies, albeit with some pretty extreme consequences. I think I'll See You in Hell it's one of these crazy cards. I don't think you're going to see anything like it in many other card games. This card allows a Guardian to literally take 1 for the team by taking a physical trauma to defeat each non-elite enemy engaged with him or her. Now, most investigators with access to Guardian cards would prefer to take a physical trauma rather than a mental trauma, because they have a lot more health than sanity. Now, if you're in a no-win situation and you're at risk of taking a mental trauma, it makes a lot of sense to play a card like I'll See You in Hell to take the physical trauma instead. Obviously, this card works a lot better in multiplayer if you can take a bunch of enemies with you, potentially clearing the way for the other investigators to make a final push toward the end of a scenario and get the victory. I think the question you've got to ask yourself is really how many enemies is it worth taking down with you to warrant taking a physical trauma. Personally, I think I'd probably want to take 3 or 4 enemies with me. The trick is making sure they're all engaged with you. However, engage actions provoke attacks of opportunity, which means it's going to be very difficult to engage a lot of enemies unless you've got plenty of health and sanity to spare. And let's face it, you probably don't if you're seriously considering playing I'll See You in Hell. The easiest way to engage a lot of enemies is play either version of Taunt from the Dunwich Legacy Deluxe expansion. Taunt is fast, and it lets you engage any number of enemies at your location. The level 0 version of Taunt will probably suffice in this circumstance, since drawing a bunch of cards with the level 2 version isn't going to help you a great deal if you're planning on being defeated anyway. Unless, of course, you don't have I'll See You in Hell already in hand. Now, that, my friends, is what I call a Hail Mary for sure. You could also consider including Trench Knife from the Unspeakable Oath Mythos pack in your deck if you want to make certain you're engaged with enough enemies before you play I'll See You in Hell. Engage actions don't provoke attacks of opportunity if you've got a Trench Knife in play, so you can gather up a few stragglers before playing I'll See You in Hell and blowing them all away. Make no mistake, though, 9 times out of 10, you are going to be pitching this skill card for its 2 skill combat, its 2 skill icons. I'll See You in Hell is the only level 0 card with 2 combat skill icons, and I would play this card in many decks just for its icons. This card will immediately find a home, for example, in my Lola Hayes deck, for example, because I've been looking for a card that allows me to go all in on the Guardian combat package, and 2 combat skill icons goes a long way to making the combat package viable. An offensive-minded Skids build might also like the icons. The same goes for William Yorick. I'll See You in Hell is one of those bizarre cards that really sets Arkham Horror apart from other LCGs and CCGs out there. chances are you're only going to play it in the most dire of circumstances. But it's far from a dead draw because it's got those 2 combat skill icons that many investigators, guardians, and otherwise that they really prize. So don't let the game text fool you. There are a few level 0 guardian cards with there are very few, level 0 guardian cards with 2 combat skill icons in the game. And I think this card is worth playing if you're looking for some extra skill icons to shore up your combat. And, occasionally it might save your fellow investigators a game or 2. Of course, you are going to be taking the physical trauma, so hopefully you've got the health pool to absorb that. And if you're playing Guardian, you probably should. The second Guardian card in the pack is the level 2 version of the 45 Automatic, an asset that was released in the core set. It costs 4 resources, 2 experience points, and it has combat and agility skill icons. It takes up a hand slot, and it has the item, weapon, and firearms traits. It comes loaded with 4 ammo, and you may take an action to spend 1 ammo, fight. You get +2 combat for this attack. This attack deals +1 damage. You also get to ignore the retaliate keyword for this attack. I'm decidedly meh about the upgraded 45 Automatic in pure Guardian builds. There are a lot of cards I want to spend my experience on before an extra combat skill icon and an additional +1 combat. So I might take a look at this toward the end of a campaign, if at all. I think Guardians who are serious about bringing the biggest gun to the party aren't all that interested in the level 2 45 Automatic. They're going to save their experience to pick up the shotgun from the core set or something like the lightning gun from the Lost in Time and Space Mythos pack instead. The Retaliate clause doesn't really add much to this card, in my opinion. There are only about 20 enemies in the game with the Retaliate keyword, and at least 5 of those are bosses. There are only 5 enemies so far in the Path to Carcosa cycle with Retaliate, so I don't think it's something you're going to encounter often enough to warrant really teching against it. Guardians have one job in a multiplayer setting, and that's killing enemies. So it's going to be a very rare day indeed when an enemy gets to retaliate against a Guardian who is pulling his or her weight. Usually they're going to have, barring an auto fail from time to time, they're usually going to have the combat skill value to pass whatever check they need. I can see the upgraded 45 Automatic finding a home in non-Guardian decks such as Skids O'Toole, William York, and Lola Hayes. Skids could save his experience to invest in a Chicago typewriter from the Lost in Time and Space Mythos pack, but William York and Lola Hayes don't have many options when it comes to upgraded weapons, so the 45 Automatic is a welcome addition to their arsenal. Those investigators also tend to have lower combat values than Guardians, so they're more likely to miss when they shoot, which means the Retaliate clause is more likely to come into play. Again, you're probably not picking up this card early during a campaign, but if you've got a few experience points left over and need a better weapon, it's a solid choice. The 45 Automatic is solid, if unspectacular. It'll work. This isn't your first or even probably your second choice when you sit down to spend your experience, but if you've got a few points left over toward the end of a campaign, you could do a lot worse than upgrade your weapon. Guardians who want to bring the big gun to the party are going to look elsewhere, but the 45 Automatic might find a home in investigators who have a lower base combat skill and fewer options to boost it than a true Guardian. That's going to do it for my look at the Guardian cards in A Phantom of Truth. I haven't really been blown away by the Guardian cards released in the Mythos packs so far this cycle, and this is another fairly ho-hum outing. I really like I'll See You in Hell for the flavor and the 2 combat skill icons. The effect, however, is really desperation defined. If you're playing I'll See You in Hell for the effect, you've probably already lost, and you just get to choose from the better of 2 bad outcomes for your investigator. A trauma is still a trauma, and physical is slightly better than mental, but it still counts against your health total for the rest of the campaign. And you never know. Your sacrifice might even turn out to be meaningless depending on the board state. So you really have to judge whether it's the right time to play it. But it is very thematic. I like how, a Guardian basically going toe-to-toe with everything in the room and taking down as many as he can, as many enemies as he can with him, while, the rogues, they've got their card, which basically they just get the hell out of Dodge and resign. So that's, it's very thematic. As for the 45 automatic, it's okay. I mean, it's not going to turn your Guardian into an ungodly killing machine or anything like that. If you want to do that, you're going to need to spend a few more experience points on something like the shotgun or the lightning gun. The 45 automatic will help the investigators, though, who don't have a lot of options to upgrade their weapons at the moment. So that's definitely a mark in the 45 automatic's favor. That's going to do it for me today. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you could leave me a thumbs up. It helps out the channel a great deal. Do you agree or disagree with my look at this pack? Make sure you leave a comment down below with your experiences with these cards. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to be notified of when I release future content. We've got, I believe, Lola Hayes' The Last King playthrough is coming up. We've also, of course, got all the rest of the cards for A Phantom of Truth. If you'd like to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromlang. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.